The vision of the agency is to have the flexibility of an independent, but the aggressiveness of a captive.
You guys are over a $20 million agency. You're driving 270 new inbound leads a month without any cold calls or anything like that. You have an incredible amount coming from cross-sell upsells. Let's break that down a little bit.
The end goal is that everybody generates opportunities. Everybody generates cross-sells, right? We have an acronym. It's greet, verify, gather, execute, close. We have 5 ways to close a call. Are you following us on social media? What else do you have that needs to be insured? Have you left us a Google review? Have you downloaded the carrier insurance apps? And anybody that could benefit from our services.
If somebody's asking you and they're saying, Eric, we're looking to start our cross-sell process, what's the first piece of advice that you're giving them?
I would say call every one of their carrier reps and request a monoline home or a monoline auto list. We throw some automation in there real quick. We don't make it complicated. And then we throw a task for the agent to call and you just attack it. You just attack it.
Eric, I've been excited to get this on the books and dive into a couple of things. But where I'd really like to start this out is tell me about how you got into insurance just in general.
I was 19, turning 20, trying to figure out what I was going to do with myself. College was there. I mean, I was in a community college out in Waco. And I smart. I knew I enjoyed college like a lot of people do. Some people enjoyed it more than I did. And I had one, I can't even remember his name, but I had one professor that was like, hey, what are you going to do with your life? And I was like, man, I want to get into the restoration industry. And he was like, well, and the short of the long was like, well, what are you doing here? Like, there's so many outfits that you can just go join and learn. Like, why would you waste your time and money here? Just go get started. And so I did. The real funny thing was that I actually thought about this weekend because we went to PF Chang's took my kids down there and we had a fortune cookie. And I thought about it, how that all happened, because I got this fortune cookie. It's like, you're going to take new adventures, or you're going to get take a risk or something. And so I was like, oh, I'm going to move to Colorado and start doing claims. So I did that, man. And I did claims for did water and fire restoration for almost 15 years. And then realized that once I started having children, that it's not a family career. So I decided that I didn't want to do claims anymore, man. We were doing 150 claims a year and millions of dollars and, clean up and whatnot. And I was like, I don't want to do this anymore. So I got into insurance, sales side.
And so, when you move to the sales side, one of the things that we had talked about is you had said, and I think this is often said, where people don't, unless you're on the claim side, whether you're on the claim side of the carrier, whether you actually did the mitigation or whatever that might be, refurbishment, whatever that is, I don't think you really can fully grasp insurance and the power of what it can do. And I know you mentioned something similar where when you wanted to move over to this side, you wanted people to kind of see that value. How did that go?
Man, when I got out of claims and I got into sales, I was like, I've only done insurance my whole entire life. So I was like, I got to stick to it. I might as well do sales. And I'm going to, I'm going to try to be a better agent and, try to get these people moving forward and hopefully get them to understand the process of insurance and what to look out for. And no, people don't care. People don't care. All they know is 15 minutes can save you 15% or less, man. It's been, let's see, almost 10 years on the sales side now. No, they still don't care.
The best part about, I think, this story in particular is how it kind of sets up, because you've obviously got them to care because your cross-sell rate is pretty incredible. And look, you've mentioned this and you're being very humble about it, but you guys are over a $20 million agency. You're driving 270 new inbound leads a month without any cold calls or anything like that. And you have an incredible amount. I'll let you dive into some of the numbers coming from cross-sell upsell. So you are these are full. This isn't a client just coming in for just home and auto or just home or just auto. Like, you are rounding out these accounts in a big way, which means you are clearly providing more risk management, more advisory type services than just like a transactional sales process. Now that being said, I really want to get into the weeds on this engine that you've built. So, where I'd love to start is let's break down that 270. Where does that come from? Where does that what drives that 270 of new business?
We have 1,000 Google reviews, so we probably get, I don't know, 30 to 40 leads from the internet. We get leads from ChatGPT, which is funny, because I guess we're there now as in the world of technology. We're very active within our real estate lending community, so we get those leads. We talked about rounding out accounts, so we hit our renewals real hard. So cross sell renewal, it's a lead source in our CRM, so we track it really hard. Midterm cross sells, lead source in our CRM, so we track those hard. So basically, any opportunity, man. Like I think it all starts for. I think it just in general for us, for anybody, you know, the vision of the agency is to have the flexibility of an independent, but the aggressiveness of a captive, right? So we have a motto in our office: respectfully aggressive. And so I think anywhere the idea is understanding the portfolio and the discovery. I mean, maybe the person called in because their auto rates are too high. So maybe the auto is the focus, but that doesn't mean we can't figure out what the rest of the account looks like. Maybe that you focus on their focus. You try to get them to bundle, obviously, but or at least bring all the stuff in the agency. But you focus on their focus, and then you attack the rest of it pretty quickly. And it's just a process of just thorough discovery, a result of thorough discovery, a result of understanding your portfolio. While we're on the phone, when we get off the phone after the sell, and just how strategic. I would say strategic planning on how you're going to go get the rest of it if anything was left off.
Let's break that down a little bit. You've got a new prospect. So what are these 270? Because I know one of the things that you had mentioned was your goal is you have 1,000 leads per month. 270 of those come from new business, but the rest of those opportunities that you're all generating are coming from the current book, which is pretty incredible. And so I would love to kind of journey this. Somebody comes in, they're one of those 270. What all products are they getting offered in that first interaction?
So I'm 100% positive I can put 1,000 leads a month into our CRM and kind of attack strategically based on what the lead source is, whether it's like we use agency Zoom, so we call them win backs, or whether it's like a smart cycle, or whatever that journey looks like for that. So the question was, what gets attacked, right? And uh, we use Canopy Connect, so we try to get all of the lines of businesses prior to shopping them, and then the questions, right? So then it just boils down to just discovery questions. So, where's your home? Where's your auto? I see you're married. I don't see a wedding ring on your policy. What's going on with that? And we just I would say we gently educate the insured of like, hey, you realize there's a limit on jewelry, right? Like, where's your Rolex? I see something's going on, right? So you gently educate. You don't want to attack him or anything. I see you got I'm in Texas, right? Oh, I see you got a big F-250 Ford, truck. What are we pulling with this truck? Is an RV? Where's your boat? Progressive told us that 1 in 4 households has some kind of like toy. So you buy into the statistics of the people who have more money that generate them, right? So Progressive can track that. They got all the money in the world to track data. We just buy into the idea that, hey, we're going to ask. If they do, they do. If they don't, they don't. We're going to move on. So I see, we talk about umbrella limits and, qualifying limits for umbrellas and, pushing that out there. If they buy it, they buy it. If they don't, they don't. We're going to do our best.
How much of this is standardized? And how much of these of this, I'm going to call it a script, might be a script, might be a skeleton, could be whatever it might be. How much of that is here's our standardized process of my insurance group that we go through versus this is we train the producer in the beginning and it's up to the producer to decide how they want to go about it with that client or prospect it.
I would say it's one of those things where you do it every single time. You don't wanna just assume what people have and don't have. I mean, just ask the question. I remember a long time ago, we had a lady walk in the office and she was upset, because her policy had canceled and she wanted to make a claim. And we sent her numerous emails and say, "Hey, listen, your policy is pending cancellation. You know, we have a pretty tricked out service pipeline." And then she came in, she was very upset. And even though we did everything we were supposed to do, I remember somebody on my staff was like, "Wow, that was very like I'm kind of nervous, right? Like that was kind of engaging." And I was like, don't ever forget about how that feeling, because whenever you decide to be lazy one day, you don't want to ask anybody about their wedding ring, and then they come into the office wondering why their wedding ring isn't covered. I'm just gonna be like, "Hey, what happened here? Why didn't you ask the question?" Like, don't ever forget those feelings. It's people learn through experience, but we don't it doesn't have to be our experience. Like, we can learn through somebody else's. We wanna learn through their experiences. So, that's how it's just a commitment, man. I got 1 team lead for every 5 employees, and, we have programs and scripts in place. Like, I know I don't know, I'm kinda old school when it comes to that stuff. Like, we got programs in place. We wanna make sure the questions are being asked. Um, we wanna make sure that we're doing our best. I mean, that's why we have I don't know, man. If you look at our Google reviews, everybody they appre the they appreciate it because nobody, "Oh, my other agent didn't tell me that." Whenever that's the easiest sell of the week. Whenever somebody's like, "Oh, I didn't no, my other agent didn't tell me that." It's like, "Okay, well, this is gonna be easy." Because then it doesn't matter if you're more expensive.
I completely agree. I mean, I think that, and then obviously, as your policies per household go up, your retention's going to go up, and it's going to be harder to move on from you regardless. And that's one of the things, when we had the discussion, you over doubled your policies per household, which is pretty incredible. Um, and so what was that? What does that exact system look like? Is it when somebody's coming up for, well, let's say they're coming up for renewal or it's a win back campaign, is that a series of emails, phone calls? I'm assuming this is where the that aggressive or respectfully aggressive follow-up comes up. Walk us through that in detail. What does that look like? How do you drive those kind of numbers?
So, we have a very detailed but not complicated renewal journey. You know, we have so we have a renewal questionnaire. It's just like a gravity form, and it has, the questions that we want, the questions that we feel like are important. And the last question is, "Hey, I see we have your home. Where's your auto?" So on our discovery forms, what we did is we created like needs. So like Callan calls and you got your home, your auto, your RV, and your boat, right? So we created needs check boxes, and then those needs boxes, whenever the form submitted, get pushed into Agency Zoom and automatically populates a needs tag. So if we write your home and auto today, for some reason we didn't get the RV or whatever, right? If we write your home and auto today, we take off those 2 tags and we leave needs RV, so we can come back and pick that up later. So, so the same thing like on the renewal questionnaire, we have all the lines of businesses that trigger tags inside our CRM. It gives you an opportunity to be prepared and understand that the conversation's already been had. The renewal journey is very, very, I'd say it's very detailed, very intentional, but it's not complicated. What changed? What changed and what do you have? Is your mortgage still Wells Fargo? Cool. We just make sure we're billing the right person.
So what I'm hearing you say is that you have a process starts at the beginning, and that the beginning is making sure we're not just talking about the one thing that you came here for, whether that was auto rates, home rates, whatever that might be. Yes, we're going to address that. We're going to make sure that we we solve the problem that you have right now. But in addition to that, we're going to ask deliberate questions to uncover some potential needs that you didn't even know that you had. You might act on those, you might not act on those, but we have a process in place where when we are asking that, we know that they have a boat, for an example, and maybe they don't want to switch their boat right now, but we've got their home and auto. We know at renewal we're going to bring that up, or is it? I'm assuming it's probably any conversation. You're probably pulling up that record and using that as an opportunity to say, "Hey, I know we haven't looked at that boat in a while. Happy to take a look at that boat and see if we can't help you there." Is that fair to say? Is that a summation, or is there anything I missed on that or misinterpreted?
No, man. I mean, the end goal is everybody. Even if you're just a service, even if you're just, we got a couple of VAs, right? The end goal is that everybody generates opportunities. Everybody generates cross sells, right? So we have an acronym. It basically stands for greet, gather. Let's see. It says is greet, verify, gather, execute, close. So GVGEC, greet, verify, gather, execute, close. So greet the insured, verify, who they are in our system, whether it's email or phone number or whatnot. And then gather what they need, execute whatever they need, mortgage update, auto update or whatever. And then the closing, is, there's 5 ways. We have 5 ways to close a call. Basically, are you following us on social media? Uh, what else do you have inside that needs to be insured? Did you leave us a Google? Have you left us a Google review? Have you downloaded the carrier insurance apps? And then the fifth one is, basically client referral. Do you have, do you know anybody that could benefit from our services?
Do all 5 of those get asked at the end, or how do you dictate which one of those questions gets asked?
It really gets the bit depending on the call. So like if it's like if it's a somebody calls for an auto update, right? The close would be, hey, have you considered downloading the carrier app? So like you don't have to call us about this anymore. Just go down. I'm gonna send you the link in your policy number, go download Progressive or whatever whoever the carrier is, and then this is how you're gonna use it moving forward. It depends on just depends on how it came in. If it's a mortgagee update, same thing. Like we'll help them with that. It's like, hey, have you left us a Google review? Cool. We'll send you the link. You just make it easy on them, and then you follow up.
To that point, one of the things that I'm curious about is, you've got this down. How is this team structured? Is it do you have it separated from new business and upsell? Does a producer that works on new also work on upsell? Do they work on renewal as well? Is that part of a different team? What does that structure look like?
The way we have it structured, I would say it's pretty unique, but it works for us, right? So the way the agency is set up, we talked about the 1 per 5. So I have a new sales team, a renewal team, and a service team, right? Salespeople do sales, service people service. If salespeople start servicing, I'll put you in service, but you're not going to be thrilled about it. The new sales team is responsible for your profile from day one to 45 days up to the expiration date. So let's just say it's let's just say it's 320 days. Now, the new sales team is responsible for the first 320 days of your portfolio. And then when the renewal comes up, the renewal team's responsible for the last 45 days. Renewal came out, we received the renewal. We're doing our dog and pony show. Everything's done, we're moving forward, and then after that, after renewal team's done with it, that's back on the sales team's plate. So they're responsible for it for 320 days. So let's just say I get a list of monoline homes from carrier. I take that list and I give it to the sales teams and say, hey, here's the expiration. So here's your 50, here's your 50. And make your teams need to attack this list. We're going to drop these, for the new sales team. Hey, we're going to drop these in automation, into Safe Code cross sell pipeline. We're going to drop these in there. Go attack. And then I give it to the renewal team lead and say, hey, make sure every one of these people gets a phone call in the next 7 days.
So they're each going after that?
So my renewal team goes after the ones that are last 45 days of the policy. And my new sales team goes for the ones that are out goes for the rest.
All for the segmentation. That makes total sense to me. What I'm curious about is that is a unique setup in that the now are they just purely focusing on like you got a renewal coming up, we're going to renew you, or are they having the exact same conversation that that new business sales team is having?
Same conversation with some changes of, we got to make sure we get the right mortgage company build, some of the renewal stuff that comes up, right? Because somebody who comes up for renewal, the conversation is a little different. Uh, because we have them inside the office. We don't have to drive wedges. We don't have to drive as deep of a wedge, right? So we have the policy inside the office. So a lot of it is just, confirming that they didn't, get married, buy Rolexes, anything that can trigger roof updates or new roof, anything that can, trigger discounts or prevent them from having prevented an uncomfortable conversation later because of, hey, I lost my wedding ring and it's not, and you know what I mean, stuff like that.
Why separate the teams that way specifically? Did you find that there was a better I want to say yeah, a better personality for renewals than new business and vice versa?
I would say my renewal team is a little bit more nurturing, but it's probably not, it wasn't on purpose. From 2021 to 2025-ish, Texas took a beating in insurance, right? Forever 50% of our renewals were going up 40% or more. And, we were playing defense. We had played offense forever, and then we had to play defense. So retaining became more important than new business because carriers started tightening up their guidelines. The premiums were going, we're going up there. And we had to play defense now. So, in an effort to keep up with our new sales, our new opportunities coming to the agency, we said, "Hey, listen, we're not going to make the agents our we're going to make our agents focus on renewals. We're just going to create our own renewal team and let everybody have their own journey and they're going to they're going to nurture these people a little, as good as we can. We're going to train them hard on how to overcome these challenges, the facts, the FOMO, all of that stuff. They're going to take some black eyes, they're going to take some bloody noses, but we're going to support them and we're going to make sure they get back up and pick up the phone again and call the next one. So it was just a very easy way for us to really focus on it. Like, if we're gonna focus on it, let's just do it intentionally and hit it hard.
Makes total sense. And I can definitely understand the why you would split them up. I think that's an interesting way of giving that back to the new business. And look, a new business is probably more wired, and you probably have my guess is the incentives are different between the two teams. Is that fair? Or am I off on that?
They're comparable, but a little different from the front end side, the salary side.
Gotcha. And the service team, are they also responsible for having these upsell conversations? I think you alluded this to a little bit earlier, and that answer was yes. But they're also at every opportunity working this framework in to be able to cross sell upsell. Is that right?
Yeah, what they do is they basically insured calls for whatever reason, they get to they responsible for verifying the portfolio. If there's something outside the agency, they put the sales team lead in an email with the insured and just say, something to the extent of, hi Cassidy, please meet Callan, one of our insureds. He's got an RV insured with somebody else, not inside the agency. Please, go get it.
How do you make sure this process is followed?
Since it's in an email, we track the cross sell emails, right? And so that's how we really follow up on that particular aspect of it. And then we just talk about it all the time, all the time.
Are they comp specifically on cross sell upsell?
Not my service team.
So is that part of the expectation, or is it more you just built the culture around this? Um, And as a result, it's just driven, it's just how we do it.
Just how we do it. These are the rules.
Yeah.
And it's all talked about up front, man, in the recruiting side of it. Like like there's no, it's all talked about up front. Like these are the job responsibilities. So, I mean, and that's, you just kind of, and we talk about it all the time. Like I have a service team meeting every other Wednesday and we talk about it every single time. How many people came in and, you know, we're pretty clear what the definition of a cross sell is. On that side, it's not somebody who called to talk about their renewal. Like it's somebody that has a line of business somewhere else that we don't have here. So pretty clear on the definitions, pretty clear on the expectations, pretty clear on how to relay it to the team to get it moving forward accordingly.
It's funny. We're having this conversation and you're talking about it almost as if it's like, yeah, why would this be done any other way? And if you go to, and I've spent a lot of time in the big digital agencies, right? The couple hundred person inside sales teams where they're pulling people. And we had this conversation as well. And I know a lot of them. And in that world, it's second nature. Like that's just it. That is, and they've got all the big systems to be able to monitor this, to be able to track this, and all the speech analytics and anything else that you can think of. But I don't see it done nearly as much at in more of a firm like yours, which I'll say is at a regional level. And not to say you're not doing national work, I'm not 100% positive, but at a regional level, one, and I think the second part of that is you're definitely more of someone that's looking at this from a I want to be your advisor perspective than I am a high, very high volume transactional shop. And I'm not saying necessarily one's better than the other, although you can make an argument for sure. Um, but how were you able to pull that off? When you look back at this, why were you able to do this and so many others struggle in this regard?
Man, believe me, we've struggled for sure with how with structuring it, without a doubt. Um, we've done it a lot of wrong ways, but I would say the biggest thing we did is we just didn't give up. I mean, to be honest with you, I mean, it's just you take something you take this idea and the first the first concept of this idea, you know, maybe it's not perfect, but you just keep going. And so you try it out and you're like, "Ah, I didn't really like that. Let's move this person over here and like let's throw this automation here and then like let's do kind of do this a little bit. Let's see if this works." And then you just kind of just keep paying attention and then you just keep training and you keep training on it. You realize your team's going to realize that listen, he's really really passionate about this. We either are going to do it or he's going to find somebody who will. And so and my team's very might do my bleeding. My team knows that. So and then you seek their advice like, hey, why, like, what happened here? The reality is you embrace the journey and you listen to the music. So we're going to embrace all this together, but I'm going to walk around all the time, which I do all the time around my office and be like, hey, what's going on with this? Why did it not get done? And it's not like I'm not upset about it. I just want to learn. Like I'm not making these calls. All I did was create the gravity for him. But like, how do we get what happened here? Like, why did it? And so I feel like I learned more from my team than from anybody because they're the ones that's in the trenches. And I'm open and willing to seek advice. I want to be educated on every single time on what this scenario was, right? And how did it where if and where did it fail? And the reality is, man, our system is supposed to work for 90% of people, right? There's like this, there's a 10% of the time, like it's like, oh yeah, man, this lady, she wouldn't call me back, like or whatever it may be. This guy was crazy, like he didn't want to give me his deck pages and blah 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 blah. Like, okay, that then fine. Like let it like I'm not worried about that. I'm not trying to accomplish those goals. Um, but I just, I walk around and I'm very upfront with inside of what's look and see what my team's doing and, help. I go seek and gather information and then I run back to my office and like, okay, let's try this and let's figure this out and blah, 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 blah. And then I go back and be like, hey, so here's what we did. And, you know, and then I go to this, we just all kind of talk about it together. We talk about it all the time. Because the reality is like, there's only 8 hours in a day. And I'm very adamant about not having any glass ceilings on how much anybody can make here. So, and it's kind of why we pay that. Like we got a pretty unique, I would say, is unique payroll setup where like our every one of our people are W-2 employees. Like we don't have outside sales producers. Every one of our people are W-2 employees. They're working the leads that John James and I, bring into the agency. And they got a base salary, and every once they offset their salary, they qualify for commission splits and bonuses, right? We give $250 for every ten Google reviews, we give them 250 bucks. We've structured it that way so everybody can just go attack. The reality is that we buy into the to circle back around on like the process, like so whenever I'm walking around and I'm seeking and I'm like, hey, help, I want to help, I want to help. It's not because I want to go, buy another Cadillac. It's like, hey, how can I help you close this faster so you can get to more files faster, or so you can close faster? How do I make it easier on you? Right?
What I'm hearing you say is that you're walking the floor, you're asking these questions so you can remove roadblocks. You've got a vision. The vision's coming from you, and but how you get there doesn't have to be this doesn't have to be the Eric Roberts way of doing this. It's you want to hear from the people that are doing this day to day, and then you can go back to work on removing any friction to having them be as successful as possible.
Yeah. I humans, one thing I've learned is that humans fail the system. You know, every now and then the system will fail, and you get this like what 404 gateway, and where you can't log in. Like that's when the system fails the system, right? The reality is, man, generally speaking, humans fail the system, right? Due to having a bad day, lack of discipline, lack of accountability, lack of, didn't really know this was going to happen. So now we got to go back and tweak the system or adjust it. So the reality is that if we can, then the consumers are taught 15 minutes can save you 15% more. But we're not going to turn around quotes in 15 minutes, man. We don't have the capacity to do that at the moment. But I feel like if we can get them turned around in 2 hours, we can close them fast, but I have to give them the tools and the platform to be able to close them in 2 hours. Like, I have to give them we talked about the CRM, we talked about the canopies, I have to give them the tools to be able to do that. You know what I mean? So, and then you gotta tie all of this together. You gotta make sure that we're not bouncing across 7 different Windows tabs working inefficiently. And I think that's where, like, I walking around gathering information and somebody be like, "Hey, it'd be pretty cool if this connected to this." It's like, "Well, all right, let me go run over here and let me go attack Zapier. Let me go see what we can do." Like, "Okay, well, we'll figure it out one way." If we gotta go buy an API key from EasyLinks or whatever, we'll go do it. We'll figure it out.
It makes complete sense. I'm curious if let's say you're I know you do this quite a bit, and this is how we got introduced, but you coach and you give a lot of advice to other agency owners that ask you for it. And if somebody's asking you and they're saying, Eric, we're looking to start our cross-sell process. What's the first piece of advice that you're giving them?
I would say call all your vulnerable carrier call every one of their carrier reps and request a monoline home or a monoline auto list.
That's just of their monoline clients, or what is that list? Can you break that down?
Yeah, so like if I'll call Safeco and be like, email or call Safeco and be like, hey, can you send me a list of all my monoline homes? She's like, you know what I mean? And they're like, oh, we just took rate decrease. Cool. Can you send me a list of all my monoline homes and let me see who I've already quoted? If I got Safeco inside the house with Progressive, like, or if I got, how can I work this out? How can I figure this out? Because, and then you just put together a strategic plan. So they generally send it to you in an Excel spreadsheet. So we take that Excel spreadsheet, and there's usually not a whole lot on there, maybe 50, 60 people, which isn't a whole lot whenever think that we got 7,000 people here. We take that list and then we dissect it real like pretty quickly. What we do in the past, how we quote in the past, what it is, and then we give it to the agents in the form of dropping into the renewal pipeline or dropping into a cross sell pipeline, like or a lead is let's just say Safeco cross sell pipeline in a new sales pipeline, and then we throw some automation in there real quick. We don't make it complicated, and then we throw a task for the agent to call. So it's like call text, call text, email, text, email, text, email, text, and then like call on day 3, and you just attack it. Like every one of these people, man, are like you gotta. We coach them the idea that every one of these people are our friends. I mean, sometimes we're better friends with them than they are with us, but they're all your friends. I mean, they've trusted you to do to issue their home policy. Like you might as well just go attack the auto. So you just attack. Like you come up with a plan. I mean, you just attack. I mean, if you wanted to do a client or like you want more client referrals, well, then you got to call all your clients to go get refer and check on them. Lead with being helpful and with that kind of call, and then turn it into, hey, you think we can get a referral by the end of the week? Like you can do that. Like whatever your journey, whatever you're trying to accomplish, you just got to attack it intentionally.
Create the plan, attack it, and then make sure that that's going to continue to get. How do you? Here's a question: how do you balance those different campaigns and not just annoying your customers?
We don't have like like an outreach that's not strategic. Um, that would be the first thing. Cause like, let's just say you got on day 87 of policy period, send this email, whether, send grandma's apple pie recipe. Like we don't have any of that. Um, bec- eh, because I mean, not for any other reason than, we try to address them, in different ways. Like we don't want them getting too many emails from us because then they just unsubscribe from your email, and then you're kind of like totally defeated the purpose.
Yeah. So everything you're doing is highly intentional. It's strategic in nature. So if your goal is to drive referrals, then that's what you're doing. You're not throwing all these other things at them for at least this period.
We try to have some boundaries on our outreach for sure. I think you can definitely over automate. Um, we just try to have boundaries, but it's also part of the call. Like you don't just lead in and be like, "Hey, got your home, don't have your auto. Where's it at?" Like you kind of like you gotta, you know what I mean? You gotta kind of call, check in, see how things are going, and then you kind of lead into the auto part of it.
So you've got all these processes down. How do you go to 50 million?
So right now, 95% of the agencies is personal lines. So first things first, expanding our commercial footprint. We probably get 15 to 15 commercial leads a month. Just from the internet, Google. It's all part. Some of them are great, some of them aren't. Some of them we punt. Um, but going from 15 to 20, or from 2023 to 50, you know, expanding our commercial footprint for sure. We're still bringing in, 200 leads that aren't currently with the agency at the moment. Well, probably not that much. Probably like, let's just say 100, just for easy math. 100 to 120, leads a month from like out that aren't currently with the agency. So, that's going to help. Um, and the hardest part of an agency this size is that I don't care. You can have a fantastic retention rate, but when you lose 200 people, like you got to replace them with 200 people to maintain a solid retention rate, and maintain growth. So, I'm very well aware is that as I get older, my referring sources and, lead sources, they get younger. So like your realtors, your lenders, your just the community, man. Like, they get as I'm getting older, they're getting younger. So I would say like we're gonna have some sort of, we're gonna put some boots on the ground outside of the three of us, here soon. But at the moment, we've just been attacking what we have, and it hasn't stopped, being where we're at, premium wise and revenue wise hasn't stopped everybody from calling trying to purchase us. I'll tell you that.
No, I bet. No, well, no, it's you've got a great size. That's why I was just kind of curious. And how do you think about getting it to, like when you think about getting that to next level, which there's no way I can't imagine that you've had tons of these conversations just given how you already have wired this thing and how you talk about it. So I'm excited to watch as you climb to this next level. I love it, Eric. This has been excellent, man. I appreciate you coming on.
Yeah, man. Thanks for having me.